With that out of the way, we can go right ahead and go into the second segment, which is going to talk about this really close game between the Pacers and the Knicks. It was really close, and the game was full of runs. One moment, the Pacers would go on a run. The other moment, the Knicks would go on a run. And a lot of the Pacers' runs, like, they were able to force a lot of turnovers due to Knicks' mistakes, and they were able to capitalize off of those turnovers, thus making the game a lot closer than what it is really like to be expected. And the Pacers, they ended up winning the second quarter, but after that they ended up losing in the second half. Like, they were up to go into the half, but then they ended up losing. Now, this is Brunson's fourth consecutive 40-point game, and he's the first player since Michael Jordan to accomplish that. And obviously that is insane, and that is absolutely ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as Josh Hart playing every single minute of this game. Every single minute. He is a 6'4" point guard, and he is, well, not really a point guard, but he's a 6'4" guard, shooting guard, whatever you want to call him. That is, he scored 24 points in this game, got 13 rebounds, and 8 assists, along with 3 steals. 13 rebounds as a 6'4" guard is unreal. It is absolutely unreal just how valuable Josh Hart really is. He is literally, in this series and in this playoffs, he's been the LeBron of role players. Like, he's been the best role player for any other team that I've seen in this postseason. The way that he gets these offensive rebounds and is able to make second chances or give the Knicks second chances to score is insane. And not only that, there are times where he's actually, like, able to shoot the ball as well and score efficiently as well. He shot 9 for 13 from the field and 1 for 1 from 3 for 24 points, which is very, very impressive. And honestly, all of the starters in this game, they played very, very impressive, and they all played 44-plus minutes, which is ridiculous coming in from Tom Thibodeau. Like, there's not a single player on the Pacers that exceeded playing 40 minutes. And here they are on the Knicks having 4 players play more than 42 minutes. Like, DiVincenzo played 44 minutes, Jalen Brunson also played 44 minutes, and OG played 42 minutes. And OG has also been very valuable. Jalen Brunson and OG's record when they both play together is 20-2. Like, that is ridiculous right there. And he ended the game with 13 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 very, very important clutch steals that ended up deciding the game in the fourth quarter. Those 2 steals were incredible that he had. And he shot 5 of 14 from the field, which wasn't really that impressive, but his defense late in the game more than made up for his lack of scoring. And now with Jalen Brunson, who might be the best point guard in the NBA right now. He might be the best point guard in the NBA. I can't really think of any other point guard that's going to be better than him or that is better than him right now. The only two that really stand out to me at the point guard position for that, or that even have an argument, are Luka and Shai. And even then, I think like that argument is a little bit more in favor of Brunson than it is in either of those 2 players. And hold on, just 1 second. I'm looking at my notes real quick just to see what I had to say, because I did have some notes around Jalen Brunson and what I thought about him, just so I could. So essentially, like, I mean, when you run through like all the point guards in the Eastern Conference, there's Halliburton, who is egregious. I'll talk about the Pacers and Halliburton in a minute, but Halliburton has fallen off. Then Dame, he's also somewhat fallen off. Trae Young was hurt for a majority of the season, but I think if if the Atlanta Hawks and the Knicks, if they play again in the series, that would be a matchup against two undersized guards and one that is ridiculously hated by all New York fans. That would be the matchup of the century, honestly. Then there's Tyrese Maxey, who is a second option point guard, who isn't the first option like Jalen Brunson. De'Aaron Fox, he got bounced early. He didn't even make the playoffs. Darius Garland, he also kind of fell off. I thought he was going to be a rather good point guard. Drew Holiday, he's always been a little bit meh recently, and he's not on that same level as JB, obviously. And then Curry throughout the entire season was also a little bit meh. And I say that because there would be times where he would score less than 10 points, and that happened a lot of the times this season, more so than it usually does. And I can't help but think if LeBron were to be the one that ended up dropping less than 10 points, the media would never hear the end of it. And then that only leaves Luka and Shai and Jamal Murray, if you want to be technical. But Jamal Murray is arguably the most underrated point guard in this league, and what right now, this postseason, is not really looking good for him. Not to mention the fact that he also has Nikola Jokic to he's also a number 2 option in that sense. But I think that Jalen Brunson, he might be the best point guard in the NBA right now. I mean, 4 consecutive 40-point games as a 6'1" guard. And his fourth quarter was absolutely phenomenal. There was a point where in the fourth quarter, Tom Thibodeau, the head coach, would call isolations for Jalen Brunson. I literally saw him on the sideline. He was doing this. And whenever you do this, that usually means ISO in basketball, and it means spread the floor, which entails isolation. And every time Jalen would get the ball, he would straight up go over to he would go over to where, because the Knicks he was on this side, we'll say he was on this side, and the Knicks were on this side. So he would walk over to this way so that way the Knicks players can see him and what he wants to be run, and he would go like this. And everyone would clear out to let Jalen Brunson cook. The fact that the own coach is calling isolations for you in the fourth quarter and you are delivering, I don't know if that is a more I'm him moment than anything else. And he still has yet to score. If he continues the streak of scoring 40-point games every single time, I think it's a done deal. He might be the best point guard in the league. And the fact that he was a second-round pick too is insane. The fact that he was able to develop like this. It's really unfortunate that Dallas had to move on from Jalen in order to play. But they do have Kyrie, so when you look at it and when you look at the success that the Mavs are having and the success that the Knicks are having. It seems like a little bit of a everything turned out just fine. But I think Jalen Brunson, he might have been a better I think Jalen right now, he might be a little bit better than Kyrie. And it's really difficult for me to actually say that because I see what Kyrie does on the court and it's ridiculously skilled. But Jalen Brunson, he also is able to produce just as much, if not more, than Kyrie on any given night. But that's just me. Now, we talked about mainly the Knicks in this game. So now let's look at the Pacers and what went wrong. So, obviously, what went wrong was the defense late in the fourth quarter. Jalen Brunson was straight up torching the Pacers. And another thing that was really bad was the officiating. There was some really questionable calls in this game, and it was it was really weird. And it was bad on both ends, but the real problem that this Pacers team sort of has is just their lack of defense and not being able to guard Jalen Brunson. They were just letting Jalen Brunson isolate. They were not sending double teams. They were not doing any of that in this game to stop Jalen Brunson. And the fact that their defense is really this bad it sort of helps Jalen Brunson, and it allows him to score as many points as he does with ease. Now, another thing that also doesn't help them is the fact that their all-star point guard, Tyrese Halliburton, ended the game with 6 points, 8 assists, and 4 steals. The 4 steals are the only positive thing about his performance. He shot 2 for 6 from the field. And in the fourth quarter, we sort of saw 2 different star point guards and how 2 different star point guards play. One I mentioned before, Jalen Brunson, he delivered. 40-point game, balled out. That is his all-star point guard. Tyrese Halliburton, in the fourth quarter, instead of taking over, he was just passing every single time he had. Any attempt that he would just pass the ball. He would give it up. He would try something. If it didn't work, he would give the ball up. And he's not been that same aggressive scorer that he was in the beginning of the season, or that same playmaker that he was at the beginning of the season. And he's really fallen off since then. I try to tell you guys. I try to tell you that, but you didn't listen. I try to tell you that Trae Young was better than Halliburton. Jalen Brunson was also better than Halliburton. And there were so many other point guards that were better than Halliburton, but no. Tyrese Halliburton was going to be the best point guard in the league. Look where that turned out for you now. I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking down on like Halliburton and his play, because he is a really good player and things like that, but a lot of people were giving him way too much hype than what was needed for him. And I genuinely did not agree with that. And they were saying that he was better than all of these other point guards. Look where we are right now. That downfall is painful. Like, it's honestly crazy how this downfall just happened. And if Halliburton cannot perform, and what's even crazier is how there's like barely any media coverage about that too. Like, nobody is talking about how lackluster Tyrese Halliburton has been in the postseason, or how bad he's been in the regular season leading up to this postseason as well. And he's sort of lucky that he doesn't have to deal with that kind of scrutiny, but still, that is really bad for the Pacers. The fact that because he was a very key piece to their offense and running the system that they were running with their fast pace. Now, if he's not scoring, that's just one facet that they're losing, and a very important facet. So, Miles Turner, he ended the game with 23 points. Pascal Siakam ended the game with 19 points. They both shot 8 for 16 from the field. TJ McConnell shot 9 for 16 with 18 points. And Aaron Naismith ended the game with 12 points, 3 for 6 from the field. And that was basically like all the important scoring coming in from the Pacers. And it still wasn't really enough to stop the Knicks. And we really I'm not going to really say much, but I really think that the Knicks are going to end up sweeping this Pacers team. The game was close, but if the games are going to be decided by fourth quarter performances like this, I got Knicks all the way. I don't think there's anybody on that team that can stop Jalen Brunson. But that's just me. So with that, we are out of time for the second segment, and I will go ahead and go into the third segment where I talk about Pat Riley's comments on Jimmy Butler and exactly what he had to say to him.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.